Welcome to Failbetter, where we talk to highly successful people about their journeys to success. Today, we're talking to Mike Bennetts, CEO of Z Energy, about his role in the rebranding of the company. And also, we get a sneak peek and a little taste on how this great man thinks. Let's go talk to him. Awesome. So, thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, great to be here.
Awesome. So, let's just start at the beginning of your life.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Auckland, actually in South Auckland.
Yeah.
Various parts. I lived in Bucklands Beach for a little while. I lived in Otahuhu for a while.
Yeah.
But most of my growing up was in Manarewa.
Oh, nice. So that was quite a nice sort of childhood, was it?
Yeah, I think it was just sort of typical Kiwi childhood. I mean, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, if you like.
Yeah.
Born in the 60s, left high school at the end of the 70s.
Yeah.
So that typical lifestyle that most people had around there. New Zealand was a great place to live.
Yeah.
Loving parents, caring environment, lots of sports. Enjoyed my time at school as much as you can. I think just a pretty typical environment.
Oh, nice. So what sort of education did you have growing up in Auckland there?
Yeah, do you mean in my high school or post-high school?
Well, just high school.
Yeah, so I went to the local high school, if you like, Manarewa High.
Yeah.
Actually, I still have a little bit to do with it now. It's sort of part of my giving back philosophy on life.
Yeah.
So you grew up there, same school for 5 years. I can recall having a couple of teachers who were meaningful. That you might have had them as your sort of, I guess we called them form teachers in those days. So I had a couple of people that I identified with either by way of the teachers that I was with. And also I got a couple of lifelong mates from my time at high school. I think I'm a little bit older than you are now.
Yeah.
So it's sort of kind of nice still to be in touch with guys and the odd girl actually that I went to school with.
So having long friends is actually quite important to you?
Yeah, I think it is. It certainly keeps you tied to your roots. I mean, I've been lucky enough to travel all over the world. I've spent, 17 years working outside of New Zealand.
Yeah.
So most of my working career has not been in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So it's been quite neat to be able to come back to New Zealand and connect up with family and friends. And some of those friends were people I went to high school with a long time ago now.
Awesome. Looking back, did you have any big mentors or idols that you really looked up to?
Yeah, I think some of them would be obvious one, but I remember one of my teachers had quite a profound impact on me.
Yeah.
I had him as my form teacher for a number of years.
Okay.
So just the way he shaped my thinking, the way he encouraged me to inquire into things and really enjoy the whole educational process, I thought was pretty useful. I was the first one in my family to go to university. So high school teachers who were saying, look, you're a clever enough kid, and starting to give me some guidance around that. Now, there's a lot of things in hindsight I think they could have done better, given what I know today, but I think they were really helpful to me at the time in terms of encouraging me to do the best that I can, particularly when I came from a family where it wasn't as if my parents could give me guidance around what going to university is like or how you make choices around all that sort of stuff. So I think they were pretty meaningful. I can remember I played rugby leagues from sort of between 5 and 15 for a long period of time, and we had a coach through all of that, and I have no idea where he is now. He may even be dead, actually. But actually just seeing the way that he, year after year, stuck with a bunch of kids. It was the same bunch of mates who played footy together for a long period of time, just about as much as you could learn about teamwork as a 15-year-old or a 10-year-old, just about the commitment from him and from the parents to make sure they all went out of their way to give us the best chance we could to go and achieve on the sporting field. Wow,
it's quite interesting you say that. So obviously growing up and having someone believe in you is a massive thing, like you say. Having that environment that sort of encourages you. Do you think that was a big part
absolutely
of your childhood?
Yeah, there's a lot of science, in fact, that I've subsequently learnt since I went through those high school years around expectations. If people have high expectations of you, you generally do better than if they have low expectations.
Wow.
Now, as you say that, it sort of sounds obvious.
Yeah.
But I think that's how, when you read about these or see movies about stunning teachers and the impact they have on kids, it's when they go into a pretty awful situation in a school environment and they have high expectations, and the kids meet those expectations. So I've got high expectations of myself, of my children. Yeah. And I think that's certainly a formula for part of my success, that I've had a lot of people support me on the way through, and all of them had high expectations about what was possible. Yeah.
Awesome. So have you always had a passion for business and leadership?
Yeah, I think I've always had a passion for leadership. I guess people could describe me as a natural leader.
Yeah, yeah.
I can recall in one of my early school reports that my parents remind me of, it said something about Michael is a natural leader, but can be sometimes bossy at times. and that was in a primary school report. So it's always been, I played a lot of sports and been captain of teams, so I guess I've learned that way. I was the head prefect at school.
Okay.
So you have leadership the opportunities that are there at a relatively early age. So I don't mind being in charge if that's the question.
That's awesome.
I was always struck by Michael Jordan, who would always talk about, in the last seconds of a game, he was very happy to have the ball.
Wow.
Not necessarily because he would shoot the winning goal, but actually he was quite happy to be given the responsibility of making the choice about shooting the goal himself or setting up one of his fellow team players to score the winning goal. That shouldn't sound arrogant about it. I feel okay with having the responsibility of leadership.
That's awesome. So do you feel like you're comfortable in that high pressure zone, like where it really matters? Where the pressure's on, is that where you rock?
Yeah, I certainly enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think if you don't enjoy leadership or the privilege that comes from that, then you shouldn't take it on. I think because I believe that you really want to be authentic around your leadership.
Okay.
I think I'm reasonably good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not great at everything. So I think if you have a good self-awareness, leadership is a reasonable thing to sort of sit on your shoulders.
Okay.
But you've got to be willing to take it on. I mean, I'm quite a competitive person,
Yeah.
having played a lot of sports all my life. So I like to win.
Yeah.
And leadership is part of that. But equally, I'm very happy to follow others. Even in the business environment I work in today, I'm not leading on everything.
Yeah.
That's simply impossible or downright reckless, actually, to put me in charge of everything.
Yeah.
But actually being part of teams, I really enjoy, and I'm very happy being the leader as and when required.
That's awesome there, Mike. So moving on to like your previous projects.
Yeah.
Have you had any side businesses or past projects that sort of influenced where you are today?
Yeah, not so much in the past. I'm involved in a couple of things now. Recently joined the advisory board of a software company here in Wellington.
Yeah.
Actually, I've chosen to invest in the company as well.
Oh, yeah.
I've done a bit of business mentoring over the years. Remember in the good old days when I was younger in my career, we would go along and do mentoring programs within schools.
Yeah.
I think it was called Young Enterprise in those days. I think a version of that still runs today.
Okay.
So helping other people develop businesses.
Wow.
I've got a couple of people that I mentor today, just one-on-one with them to help them with either their business or just their own sort of their professional life, so less business and more personal. So I'm very happy doing that, and actually I really enjoy it because it gives me a chance to learn new things and further extend my knowledge of what's required to be successful in today's commercial world.
Cool.
I've only ever worked. All my working career has been in a big company.
Yeah.
So I think you can learn a lot from actually the experiences of smaller firms, whether they're startup or they've been going for a long period of time.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. What management mistakes have you made, if any?
Oh, gee, well, there's no need to ask if any. There's actually a long list.
Yeah.
I think certainly early in my career, it was about overestimating my own abilities.
Yeah.
Whether that was because I thought I knew something that I didn't, or just thinking, actually, if I worked hard at this, it will come right.
Okay.
I recall doing a project one time which was an unmitigated disaster. I mean, I was brought in halfway through to be the project manager.
Yeah.
So it was already a bit messy by the time I turned up.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of us, we absolutely worked our butts off 7 days a week for many months. And it was a systems project. And even when it went live, it was still awful. It was awful for the customers. It was awful for the rest of the company. You had to manage the implications of all of that.
Yeah.
So that was I learned that in my late 20s, that actually it doesn't matter how hard I worked or how clever I thought I was. Sometimes things were just bigger than my ability to get it done.
Okay.
So that was a really good lesson for me. I think if I could label that a failure, I think failing is a really good way to keep yourself grounded, learn the lessons, and develop the right amount of humility.
Wow.
Because if you grow up in a company where people have big expectations of you, you're getting promoted on a regular basis, you can get a little bit carried away.
Okay.
With your own sort of status in life.
Yeah.
So that was a really good thing for me. So that was my single biggest failure.
Wow. What was the biggest learning you had from that big failure?
Yeah, the big learning was really, I'm at risk of repeating myself, but just not really realizing that, I'll put it differently actually. It was sort of overestimating my abilities to get things done. But what it really taught me was to reach out for others.
Okay.
And it's much better to reach out for others early on, rather than get to the end when now it really is a mess.
Yeah.
How do I get help? Because sometimes people aren't as willing to help at that stage, or the way in which they help is much more directive because you're in a bit of a crisis situation.
Yeah.
So one thing I probably learned was to reach out a lot earlier on and say, look, I think I might be off track here, or I think it's going a little bit pear-shaped.
Yeah.
Can you help me through that? And help, I think, comes in two forms.
Yeah.
I think there's what I'd call a subject matter expert. So someone who really knows the nuts and bolts of what you're having to deal with, which in this case was an IT project.
Okay.
But equally, people who can just help you from a leadership perspective to say, actually, irrespective of the technical aspects of this project, have you thought about this? Why aren't you trying that? Where are you stuck from a leadership perspective? So I talk a lot about head, hands, and hearts. So there's stuff that you know, there's stuff that you do, and then there's the way in which you lead. And I think when you ask for help, it's good to think about how you want help on all three of those things. Is there something you need to know? Is there something you need to know how to do? Yeah. And is there a way in which you need to know how to lead? So that perspective really helped me.
So it's like a whole holistic view on movement.
Yeah, I think that just because you know something doesn't mean to say you're going to be able to get it done. Okay. Sometimes, but equally, if you could be the world's greatest leader, but if you don't have sufficient knowledge or sufficient skills for your team, well, then you're probably a little bit stuck. Okay. Right. So I think it's the triangulation of all those three things that really makes the difference. So I think when you do get stuck, it's good to consider, well, what am I short of? And do I need to know something? Do I need to have an additional skill? Yeah. Or is there something about my leadership that's getting in the way here?
It's interesting you say that because I'm actually in a graduate position in a civil engineering firm. Yeah. And the biggest thing they say is ask questions. There's never a dumb question. Yeah. And that's sort of like what you're saying, is just continually look and ask for areas that you may be weak in. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, like on that project, I mean, I was put into it because the project manager moved out. Yeah. I mean, I could have been a lot more questioning in the beginning about, okay, so why am I getting put in here? I was much more excited about, wow, this is another big step up. It's a great job. I'll learn a bunch of new things. I wasn't sufficiently challenging around, well, why do you want me in here? Okay. Beyond the stuff that I felt flattered about. Yeah. It was more like, actually, it's pear-shaped. Oh, really? I didn't know it was that pear-shaped, because I would have asked questions and got off for the first couple of months of that project in a very different way to what I did.
Oh, that's awesome. That's some great wisdom.
Yeah, well, it's better to learn through someone else's failures than to go through it yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So, talking about Z, where was Z when it was Shell?
Yeah, so it's Z, by the way, as an NZ.
Z.
Yeah. So, Shell was a company that had been here for 99 years in New Zealand. Yeah. Very successful company, a market leader. So had a lot of good things going for it. When we took over, and with Kiwi ownership, particularly with our two original shareholders being the New Zealand Super Fund and Infratil, we really wanted to emphasise our Kiwiness. Okay. Not in a local yokel type way, but actually we thought that by saying to New Zealanders, look, we are a New Zealand company, we are only interested in this market and what you want as a customer, that could be a source of differentiation against the other people we compete with. Okay. But we did a bunch of research around that, and the research said a couple of things actually, but one of which was quite simple. Well, how can you call yourself a New Zealand company if you're using the Shell logo?
Interesting.
And it's sort of obvious. Yeah. You say, oh, great, well, that's good. We'll think about what we could use instead. And we did all the usual clever marketing stuff that you'd expect someone to do around a rebrand. Yeah. Some of that was science, some of that was intuition, but we brought all that together and said, the next thing for this company to do would be to rebrand to a local brand and one that we could build meaning around. Wow. Because when you first announce Z, it's like the world's shortest email address. It's a squiggle. Yeah. What the heck is all that about? But it's through experience that you create meaning.
Wow.
So I'll give you an example, right? So if you and I got together in a garage 40 years ago and said, look, we're going to start one of the world's greatest computer companies and we're going to name it after a fruit. Wow. And we called it Apple. People would go like, well, you're idiots. Okay. But now Apple has meaning beyond the fruit. And I think over time Z will further create meaning around what it means as a New Zealand company, committed to better outcomes in New Zealand, great stuff around customer satisfaction, good stuff with the communities. It will have a meaning, in 10 or 20 years' time that's very different to the squiggle that we announced in 2011.
I like the Apple analogy. It's very well put.
Yeah, and most great brands in today's world are less than 5 letters. Most of them are, they tend to be in this sort of abbreviated world we live in nowadays. They're a lot shorter, a lot sharper, and you would also say they're sort of odd names. They're names that don't normally have a meaning. Okay. Particularly when you think about tech companies. So you create a meaning through all your branding work and all your advertising and your marketing. Yeah. It's the same thing, same as with Z. It had no meaning other than the last letter of the alphabet the day we announced it. But I think if we went to thousands of New Zealanders today and say, what does Z stand for? What is Z all about? They'd bring a lot more meaning to that. Yeah.
Where is Z now? Z now?
Yeah, so we're on a journey. Yeah. We've what are we now? We're sort of 4 years old, 3 to 4 years old.
Yeah.
We're still a market leader.
Okay.
We've got the best customer satisfaction metrics
in
the marketplace.
Yeah.
We're well known within our neighbourhoods. We've got quite a strong community program through what we call Good in the Hood.
Okay.
We're introducing new products and services and technologies to our customers on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I think we're living into the promise that we put out there a couple of years ago. We're equally challenging ourselves around what next, because when you're 4 to 5 years old, some of the excitement of being, if you like, a bit of a startup sort of wears a bit thin.
Okay.
It's not a matter of, look, we've left all that stuff behind and we've changed. Many companies have gone broke and disappeared by the time they're 4 to 5 years old.
Yeah.
So we're still here. So we have to keep reinvigorating ourselves every day, not in a way that takes us away from the meaning and what the purpose of the company is all about, but actually, how do we keep it fresh? How do we keep our people motivated?
Yeah.
And most importantly, how do we keep our attention on what customers are looking for?
So you've got to constantly renew that meaning and that empowering meaning every year. It's got to be a new meaning applied every year and a fresh one.
Yeah, it's not so much fresh, but you've got to give people, I think, the chance, or the way we talk about it, is the chance to generate into.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of leaders, particularly when you're in charge of something, it's very easy to get quite directive about stuff. It's like, okay, fellas, welcome to the team. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
Follow me. I know how to get there.
Yeah.
That's not quite my way of doing things.
Yeah.
So what we do in Z a lot is we talk about what we stand for, what the meaning is, what the purpose of the firm is, what our vision is. And as much as possible each year, we provide our teams and our people with the chance to generate into that. So if we say we want to be best at customer service, what do you think we could be doing about that? What are the actions you think we could take?
Yeah.
Instead of the executive team getting in a dark room, dreaming it all up, and then
Yeah.
coming out there and telling people, do this, do that.
Yeah.
So I think you get greater commitment from people when you give them a chance to contribute to something.
Yeah.
And as I said, I think it's pretty easy as a leader to sometimes try to solve everything.
Okay.
I tend to put my attention on only doing what I can do,
Yeah.
which is usually to set something up, to stand for something, to create a direction. But how we get there, what we do, when that gets done, is typically left to the rest of Z to work out.
Okay. So you can provide the direction, but they've actually got to move Z forward.
Yes, and they've got to choose the way in which or how we move forward. It's okay to say, we want to be the best at customer satisfaction in this market.
Yeah.
Then you say, well, okay, how do you think we should do that?
Okay.
Where do you think the opportunities are? Where do you think we're doing poorly, and where we want to remediate that?
Yeah.
So it's my style. It is the culture of Z. I think, as I said earlier, most people become more committed to something when you give them choice. And one way to give them choice is to say, okay, well, how do you think we should do this?
Yeah. What's important to you?
Yeah.
In that area.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so impacting. Z has incorporated an interesting colour scheme. Could you tell us about that?
The colours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, when you do all this branding stuff, you spend a lot of time on the name, the look.
Yeah.
We had, I don't know, maybe 20 variations of the actual logo itself by way of design, like in black and white. And then when we came to the colours, we did a bunch of work to say, well, what are the colours, if you like, already taken in our industry?
Okay.
So someone already owns green, blue, and red.
Yeah.
So that sort of pushed us to a part of the colour palette that was on our own or distinctive.
Yeah.
And then we came up with colours we thought would, again, represent what we're all about.
Yeah.
So, the sunrise, as we call it, most people might call it orange, but it does represent the sunrise that you tend to see in New Zealand. The colours of, thing you may not be able to see it on the camera, but sort of the batch blue is a real contemporary Kiwi colour.
Wow.
Now, so it's a much lighter blue than you'd otherwise get if you were, say, a global company. You might go for a royal blue or a deep navy blue. So we really much chose colours that were, we thought, part of the New Zealand landscape.
Yeah.
If you went across and took photos of New Zealand, you take a photo of a beach when the sun's rising in the morning, well, it sort of looks like that.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of work was done around that. We had photos of New Zealand landscapes and imagery to help us design a colour palette that would work. And you can imagine it's very easy to go down the green path because so much of New Zealand is green, native bush, paddocks,
we stand
fields.
for that so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We thought it was a pretty distinctive colour.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, once you settle on a colour, you then go out there and look and you realise how many other people have your colours.
Yeah.
But until then, you were just relatively blind to it.
Yeah.
So sort of the sunrise orange, the indigos, the sort of the light blue that we use, we think are colours that sit naturally with New Zealanders.
Yeah.
And are distinctive relative to our competitor set.
I can see that Z is very much a company that is backing the New Zealand culture.
Yeah.
And it's fitting in. That's really great.
Well, it's sort of easy to do actually, because I don't think that when you think about culture inside a firm, it's very easy for bosses to go into a room, think about what the values are and come out and tell the team what they are, and everyone lines up. In Z, we did it quite differently. We said, what are the values of our people? And they told us, and we went back and said, this is what we heard, and they told us a bit more, and we gradually narrowed it down to the values that we have, well, basically the culture that we got. And then we decided how we would do brand, how we would do strategy, how we would do customer management, because there's a lot of science that says that personal values trump organisational values.
Wow.
Or to put it another way, if you ask your people to deliver a particular type of strategy inside a company, and that's inconsistent with their values, you won't be successful.
Because you're not realigning with them as a person.
Correct. Yeah. And even though they might pretend they're with the program and say, I'm really excited about this, in those day-to-day moments where they've got to make decisions, their personal values will trump it. So Zed's clearly got a customer intimacy strategy that's really aligned with the values. Most people inside this company have a preference for focusing on customers rather than operational excellence or sort of product development. So we're think of it a bit like a tricycle. You've got to have all three wheels to be able to ride the bike. But there's a bike that you steer, a wheel that you steer with, and for us it's the customer intimacy. While we've got a wheel called operational excellence and a wheel called technology or product development, we've got all three. Actually, we steer through our customer focus.
Wow.
And that matches up with how people think and feel inside the company.
I like that. Could you share about the ZY philosophy?
So we had this book called the ZY, and it's everything you need to know about Z. It's a document that I wrote. I wouldn't say that it was a clever piece of work on my behalf. It was what I heard inside the company over a 12-month period. And I felt it was really important when we launched Z as a brand on the 10th of May 2011 to bring all that together, and hence the document. It's been revised once since then. This version here is a couple of months old. And what we do is the culture is often described as the way we do things around here. In Z, we talk about why we do things around here. Because I think if people really understand why, then the way in which you do it becomes a lot more obvious. Or why is another way of saying what's the context. What is the context we work in? Why do we do stuff? Why does that matter to us? And if you can provide that to people, then I think you can actually leave it, as I said earlier, leave it up to their own devices to say, well, actually, what's the way in which we do that? So this document talks about our purpose, fundamentally why are we here. It talks about our vision to be a world-class Kiwi company and what that means.
I like that.
It talks about our focus on customers. It talks about what we stand for around health and safety, sustainability, our work on community. All that stuff is in that, and we actually use it as part of our recruitment. So before someone, if you like, signs the dotted line to join us, we actually give them this book and say, look, go away, have a read of it, and think about it, because when you join the company, that's what we're going to expect from you. So that sort of comes back to our original part of this discussion around expectations. We make it very clear of people what our expectations are of them.
That's cool.
And I never want that to be interpreted that we're running a cult or you've got to be with the program to be here. But we want to make it clear to folks, if you join this team, this is what's expected of you.
Cool. How important is meaning in life?
I think it's massive. So another way of saying it is purpose. So companies have a purpose. Ours is solving what matters for a moving world. So people come to work to get personal development, to get paid, to have the enjoyment of working with a group of people. They also come to work for a higher purpose.
That's right.
So even if you had all of those things at play, in one company, and you had all of those things at play plus a big purpose or a meaningful purpose for people, I think most people would choose the latter. So we spend a lot of time inside Z trying to understand, so what does solving what matters for a moving world mean? And isn't that good to get out of bed on a rainy, cold Wellington day to come to work when you're trying to solve what matters for a moving world versus, I've got to go to work and earn some bucks to pay the mortgage and the insurance and the telephone and all the other things you've got to pay each week.
So I hear that you first propose a question and then you provide the meaning for why you're going to answer the question. And then you get the way as a result of that process.
A lot of people enjoy having the freedom. I guess one of the things we talk about freedom in a framework. My job is, if you like, as the ultimate leader of the firm, is to provide a framework, and then people have freedom within that.
Wow.
So it's not a freedom where anything goes.
No, nor is
it a very small box. It's actually quite a large box, but nevertheless, it's got to have a boundary.
That's right. Could you please share why values are so important?
Because everyone rides or drives themselves on their values, and so much of that happens automatically. That if you don't help people understand their values,
Yeah.
and then align those with the company's strategy and its purpose, well, then people unconsciously will be undermining what you want as a senior leader.
Yeah.
Now, again, let's talk about this carefully. It's not like they go out of their way to do the opposite of what you said, but when you give people choices about stuff, if their values are saying, look, I'm much more excited by my own stuff rather than being part of a team or focusing on customers.
Okay.
When they, in that moment of truth, when they've got a choice between going beyond to do something for a customer or doing their own stuff, they'll just do their own stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some companies where doing your own stuff is a really important part of your success.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that values are a really important part of being able to execute strategy. There's actually research that says that if you concentrate people on helping them understand their own values, so you do very little about the company,
wow,
but you help them understand their own values,
that's big.
Their commitment goes up by 17%.
17?
Yeah.
And overall, that's huge.
Yeah. So it's a bit like saying, if you're going into battle, that's that whole competitive thing again. If you're going into battle each day and you've got people who really understand their values and how they can express that inside the company, and that means they're going to commit 17% more than another company that doesn't do that, well, then you're already off to a great start.
And when you've got 100 people working for you and you're going to multiply that by 70%, that adds up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That adds up.
Yeah, and the commitment, it really is the way we talk about it, it's the discretionary emotional energy that someone will put to things. So it's like, I'll stay that extra 5 minutes to get that done.
Yeah.
Or that difficult customer, I'll work that issue through to satisfy them rather than just handing it off to one of my colleagues. That's where the 17% shows up. And that's a little bit extra that makes a massive difference for your customers.
That's right. That's the biggest difference, isn't it?
Mm.
So let's move on to overcoming obstacles, or as we call it, failbetters.
Yeah.
What's important to you, Mike, when you face adversity?
I think it's to recognise that there's nothing wrong here. I think it's pretty easy when you do face adversity, particularly when that shows up as being you don't get something done or you fail. Yeah. It's very easy to slip into the whole judgment thing.
Okay.
I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. It's very easy to get into almost like a death spiral around that. And I think you have to sort of front up or man up to your whole, what you were short of. But a lot of what I talk about is, particularly in Z as well, we never really talk about what's wrong. We often talk about what's missing. Right? So if you go out there and something has failed, if you like, and you go out there and say, what was wrong here? Then people usually get quite defensive. They won't open up or contribute in the way that you want. Versus if you go out there and say, actually, what was missing? And just by changing one subtle word, you actually get to a really different outcome.
Wow.
So when I think about adversity, I usually, I do beat myself up the same as we all do. Yeah. I try not to spend too much time doing that.
Okay.
Mostly because it's just not productive. Wallowing in pity, or it's not fair, or if everyone else had done what I said, it would have been okay. It makes me feel better for a fraction of time, but it doesn't improve what's actually done or not done. So we spend a lot of time talking about what's missing, and one of the greatest questions I think people can ask themselves are, so what are you going to do about that?
Wow.
So you could easily sit back and say, it's not fair, my boss is unreasonable, it's not fair, customers don't get this, it's not fair that the market's moving against me. And all of that stuff might be true, but nothing's changed.
Okay.
So until you say, so what am I going to do about that? That moves you into action, then something might change. So sometimes it's, I think we spend a lot of time on trying to be right when it comes to adversity, i.e. blaming someone else, rather than just saying, look, whatever happened, happened. What am I going to do about that? Yeah. Until you actually get into action, nothing's going to be any different. You might have the satisfaction of saying, I was right, it was your fault it didn't get done. Yeah. But it actually doesn't change the fact that it wasn't done.
And then it doesn't cause movement.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all longing for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Movement and growth.
Yeah.
Just a quick tip, from you, how do you change your focus in an instant from going from focusing on what's wrong to focusing on what could be missing and moving forward? How do you do that with your focus?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I got this one perfect, and the people who work with me would say that I'm far from perfect in this regard. I think a lot of it is to recognise that most of the time when we're sort of in the more unproductive part of that, we're usually in what I would call a reaction. Okay. Right? There's a whole lot of emotions swirling around, and I think whenever something goes wrong, we usually say things inside our head that I won't repeat for the camera, type stuff. I think what I try to do is just recognise that I'm having a reaction, and whatever I'm going to think or say is usually a waste of time while I'm in that reactive state. Okay. And sometimes I can help myself get out of that quite quickly. Sometimes I might need someone else to help me get out of it. Yeah. Sometimes I just recognise now is not the time to deal with this. Yeah. So when you talk about how do I change my focus in an instant? Sometimes I can't.
Okay.
Just got to recognize, actually, I'm really bent out of shape
Yeah,
on
okay.
this, and therefore I shouldn't say anything or do anything
Yeah.
until I've calmed down and thought a bit more.
But that is changing the focus, isn't it? And it, in and of itself.
Yeah, good
that's
point.
part of it.
Yeah.
It's part of the
Yeah.
part of the strategy.
Yeah, and I think it's really easy, particularly when you're a boss, you can generally get away with bad behaviours just because you're the boss. Now,
Yeah.
I don't think that's sustainable, but it's pretty easy. Not everyone's always going to be honest with you. They won't always tell you that the way in which you're leading them right now is unproductive. So sometimes you just have to take yourself out of the situation and have a think about it. But most of us get too wound up in this whole reactive state.
Okay.
And therefore we don't usually make good decisions.
Yeah.
I think that's why, particularly when you're in business, usually there's very few things that have to be decided in the moment.
Okay.
Unlike, say, playing a game of footy, where you've got to actually, you're down by 10 points and there's 20 minutes to go, you've got to do something about that. Whereas in business, if things aren't going well with customers, you've got to try and deal with that in the moment. But generally, if it's something strategic, you've got a bit chance to sort of calm down, think about that, take advice from a group of people, and just sort of work it through.
Cool. How do you define fear or personal limitation?
Say that one again. How do I find fear?
How do you define fear or personal limitation?
Yeah. I'll actually borrow a quote from a guy called Robin Sharma, who's a well-known author. I've been lucky enough to spend a bit of time with him one-on-one. And his saying is that fear is just your development rushing at you.
Wow.
So I'll say that again, fear is just your development rushing at you. So when you're in the middle of something and you're sort of scared or fearful of the whole thing, you can relate to it again like, oh my God, it's not fair, I'm being put in an unreasonable situation. Or you can change your orientation and say, right, there's some development in here somewhere, and I just got to find it. And as soon as I find the development, then it'll all be okay. So you could probably realise from a lot of what I'm saying, it's about I work hard to choose my relationship to things, right?
Wow.
So it's not wrong, it's what's missing. It's not I'm scared, there's some development in here, and as soon as I work it out, I'll be okay. Or it does feel scary because there's a wonderful opportunity for development here and it's just coming at me so fast, I can't cope. So that's a really great way to relate to being scared. And there are times I'm scared. I've been in this game for 30 years now. There's still things that I'm fearful of. There's still times where I don't know what to do and everyone's looking at me as if, well, you're the boss, you should know what to do. Well, there's just some development in there I'm just not getting yet.
Wow. So changing the focus is massive.
I think a lot of it's about how you choose to, because stuff always happens. It's how you choose to deal with it that makes a difference, whether you want to be a victim to it or you want to say, actually, I want to rise above the circumstance, or I want to treat this as a development opportunity, or I just realise that I'm not going to be able to fix this on my own, I'm going to have to work with others. I think that's where the real juice is in the whole thing.
Awesome. How do you stay certain when going towards your goals, even if the whole environment is against you?
So I think probably start off by saying I'm not always certain.
Okay.
I think stuff sometimes comes along that says whatever you stood for or the goal you were shooting for is no longer appropriate. I wouldn't say you walk away from it just because it got hard, so I wouldn't give up. But particularly in business, sometimes if you're doing things that are strategic, it makes a lot of sense, but if the market environment changes or the competitor set changes or customer preferences change, you've just got to realise that's not the right way to sort of win the battle anymore. But more importantly, I think it's a matter of, again, being inquiring about things.
Asking questions.
Again, saying also, so why has it got hard? Why is it no longer more challenging, or why is it more easy than we thought? Because sometimes I think, again, Robin Sharma, one of his quotes I have from him is, you are never at your most vulnerable as when you're at your most successful.
Ooh.
All right. So again, I think it's pretty easy when you're doing really well. It's easy to get carried away and sort of believe that you've got the whole thing sorted. Whereas Robin sort of points to, well, that's probably when you're most likely to get it wrong, or to overestimate your abilities. So I just try to keep grounded on stuff and work really hard on inquiry.
That's cool.
I think if you can understand why things are happening, that generally gives you a better pathway to what to do, how and when, and who, all that other stuff.
So providing that real, deep, meaningful meaning is what you're saying.
You've got to get to root cause of things. I mean, there's a practice we used to use in the refining business. which is where you take hazardous material like crude and that, and you boil it up and you create, petrol and diesel and all that stuff. So it's quite a challenging environment to work in, and sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah.
Whether it's an efficiency thing or actually someone actually gets hurt. But one of the techniques we used to use was what we call the 5 whys.
Okay.
So you'd say, so why didn't you do that? And you'd give me an answer, and I'd ask why you, in response to your answer. When you ask 5 whys, you normally get to the root cause.
Yeah.
Because that's what you've got to change. It's
that's
very
powerful.
easy to say, well, you weren't paying attention. Well, why weren't you paying attention?
Yeah.
And why was the thing that led you to not pay attention? Why did that happen?
Wow.
That gets to the root cause, because it's too easy, particularly when you're dealing with health and safety, to focus on the stuff that appears on the surface.
Yeah.
And usually it's easy, again, for bosses or leaders to blame the frontline workers to say, they should have just followed the rules. Well, actually, why didn't they follow the rules?
Yeah.
You might have sent them conflicting messages, which is, here's how we want you to be safe, but customers really matter. And so the person might have broken the safety rule to try and deliver outstanding customer service. So you've sort of set them up for failure.
Yeah.
So I think, 5 whys is a really good way to get to the root cause or the underlying factors and why people do things.
That's powerful.
That's where you get the leverage.
Yeah.
Beating someone up saying follow the rules doesn't normally lead to that much change, or not enduring change anyway.
No. Let's move on to what I call the 1-minute mentor. Here at Failbetter, we have incorporated something new where we basically ask you to educate me on your job, and I've got to do your job for 1 day.
You'd love it.
The 1-minute mentor.
Yeah.
But the catch is you can only educate me on the job in 1 minute.
Yeah. And my minute starts
whenever you're ready.
Now. Right. So the first thing I'd say is recognise that you're a leader of a substantial enterprise.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you are satisfying customers, motivating your people, smashing the competition, and providing for what all the other stakeholders need, like your investors, the government, etc. So you've got to recognise there's a confluence of things at play.
Okay.
I'd say that you've got to understand that whatever choices you make or the direction you set for the firm has a massive impact on a whole lot of people.
Okay.
So choose carefully.
Okay.
Seek the input of others.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to have an inquiring mode about things rather than necessarily a judgmental mode.
Yeah.
So when stuff comes up that doesn't go the way you thought, inquire into it rather than judge it. I'd encourage you to really have fun.
Okay.
I think that if people enjoy their jobs, they do much better.
Okay.
So what aspects of my job do I find enjoyable, and what would you find enjoyable, and spend some time doing that?
Yeah.
Not exclusively, because there are things you need to do that aren't so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Make sure that you do those. And I'd really encourage you to develop yourself.
Okay.
Whatever I need to know to do my job well in 5 years' time, and I've been a chief executive for over a decade.
Wow.
20% of it I don't know.
Okay.
Right? So even if you do my job today and you've got everything you need, you still need, there's something you need in the future you don't know today, and you're going to have to go out and discover that for yourself.
So it's always about inquiring.
Yeah, you want to inquire, you want to realise that you have big responsibilities. You are trying to manage conflict, if you like, between customers, employees, shareholders, etc. That's not a bad thing. Is realise that there is no one easy answer to everything. But if you enjoy it and you commit yourself to your development, I think you'd be a great chief executive.
Thank you. I feel like I'm ready.
Yeah, great. We can swap jobs now.
Yeah, I don't think I may be as prepared as you. When you enter a stress state, what's important to you?
In terms of how I deal with it?
Yeah, like when you're stressed, where does your focus go? Does it go on thinking about family? Does it go on thinking about trying to solve the issue? We've talked about this slightly, but when your emotions are going haywire, what are you thinking about?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 types of stress. There's a productive stress, and then there's an unproductive stress.
Yeah.
So when I'm unproductively stressed, my focus is usually just on myself.
Okay.
It's not fair. Why does this happen? I've got so much work to do. I can't cope. So there's all that sort of stuff. When I am more productive with the stress, because I think you need a certain amount of stress to get you out of bed each morning.
Wow.
Then I just have my attention on what really matters to me. In terms of my business commitments, what matters to me outside of work, like as you say, my family. What matters to me around my health. So sort of when I am more productive with dealing with stress, I get really focused on the fundamentals about what matters to me.
Yeah.
And that usually helps me find a pathway.
Okay. So going back to those core values.
Yeah.
Sweet. To be a CEO, your performance has to be great.
Oh, not necessarily. You can be a chief executive and be ordinary or less than ordinary. You may not be one for long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think from time to time, all of us have great years, and sometimes we have less than great years.
How have you differentiated yourself from others in your line of work?
That's an interesting question. So I think ultimately you do have to focus on performance. So if you like, I've been a chief executive for a reasonable period of time. So I've delivered results.
Yep.
You have to understand that. I think if you are a successful CEO, you are working well with all the myriad of stakeholders that you have to deal with.
Okay.
Your employees, your staff,
Yeah.
your competitors, not in an anti-competitive way, by the way.
Yeah.
Government, etc. So I think chief executives really are, you've got sort of multiple faces.
Yeah.
As the leader of the company.
Okay.
Internally and externally. And I think you're mostly preparing the company to be successful in the future. So whatever performance Z is delivering today probably has very little to do with me.
Yeah.
My attention is more on creating an environment within which people can succeed today and making sure that the direction of the firm means we'll be successful in 5, 10, 20 years' time.
How do you know which face to put on for which environment?
Well, I usually try to understand what's the environment that I'm in, and I work really hard at being authentic.
Cool.
So I try not to be anything more or less than what I am.
That's awesome.
So I think most people around here they know when I'm annoyed, they know when I'm happy, they know when I'm challenging, they know when I have their best interests at heart. Yeah. So I work really hard at just being really authentic or true to myself.
Cool. And I feel that. That's awesome. How do you get out of bed in the morning when you're not interested in the day?
That's a great question, particularly in a winter's day in Wellington where the wind's screaming and it's freezing cold. I usually have no trouble getting out of bed, actually. I mean, I get out of bed 5 or just before 5.
Yeah.
And because I'm really clear on what matters to me and what it's all about.
Okay,
So I usually exercise first things in the morning, so that's really important to my health and well-being. Yeah. So I concentrate on that.
So that's one of your rituals?
Yeah, ritual. Yeah, I work out 6 times a week. I sort of run half the week and in the gym doing weights for the other half of the week.
Yeah.
But being really clear on what matters to you. And yes, I've had this all my life, but it's really become a lot clearer to me in the last 15 years of my working life around what matters to me, and that gets me out of bed on those cold days. I tell you what, you don't pull your job description out of the drawer on a cold, wet day. You say, actually, what's the difference I want to make? Why am I here? Yeah. And that's what usually gets me out of bed.
How do you manage your time with regard to family, social life and sports?
Very carefully. I talk about it by way of what I call harmony. A lot of people talk about balance, the whole sort of work-life thing, that if you have more work, you have less life. I think about it by way of harmony. The metaphor I like to use is a spider's web. That a spider's web has multiple points around the outside. And most spiders' webs are not symmetrical. So it implies that at any point in time, there's less of something, more of something else. But the spider's web always has integrity. In the sense it always does its job, even though it's not perfectly symmetrical. So I don't like balance. I like to talk much more about harmony, and I think spiders' webs have harmony. And I think if you study it, I don't know this for a fact, but I'd imagine if you studied a spider's web long enough, they do change shapes depending on what's happening around them.
So it changes on the context?
But the integrity of the spider's web is always there. So there are times where I have little to do with my family, if you like, and the IPO was one of those. So in that case, the web was in. But if it had been all about balance, I would have been, I think, sort of trapped into a bad way of thinking. But it was just, the integrity of a spider's web is a great metaphor to think about for harmony.
I like that. How does one build hope on a more personal note where they haven't been trained or taught in their environment to have hope? How does one build hope where there is none?
That's a big question. That's probably beyond my competence. I think if you can't work it out for yourself, there's usually someone who has, or who could help you. So whether that's about having a conversation with somebody, or listening to inspiring music, or reading an inspiring book, usually something like a biography or an autobiography. I think there's a lot of lessons out there for everybody, particularly in a digital world. I mean, I think about sort of how I grew up compared to what's available to me today. I can pretty well solve every question I have or learn about it through the web, whereas in my day I had to sort of wait to get down to the library if I was lucky. So I think there's I'd really encourage people to spend enough time working on the stuff inside if they can. Just recognise it's probably going to come from being with someone else or seeking stimulation from the outside in.
Wow. One of our last questions is, how does one adopt a new value into their life, you know? So I want to adopt a value, let's say that I care about people,
Yep.
but I don't really. How do
Yeah.
I adopt that new value?
Well, I don't think you can. I think that over your lifetime, your values can change.
Yeah.
They are shaped by your circumstances, your
Yeah.
experiences, how you learn new things, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't think you can just take on a value.
Well,
I don't think each morning you can sort of wake up and say, yeah, I love customers. I love customers.
Yeah.
That's probably not the way to get focused on customers as a value.
Yeah.
But perhaps by being in the right environment or undertaking the right training,
Yeah.
or being exposed to people who are role models around that might open up your mind to it.
Yeah.
Values are so much at the heart of what we do. I think it's just really easy to sort of read a book or join an organisation. They say, look, our value is this, you must live by it. I don't think that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the way it works for me anyway.
Okay. So to wrap up, you've reached a place in your career where most would dream of. You know, you've reached what some would say the gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah.
Where to from here, Mike?
Yeah, so I still think I have a contribution to make to Z.
Yeah.
I've thought about doing other things in the past, and the people whose opinion I value a lot, like close colleagues, and said to me, look, you're better off, leading a company. So that's why I tend to do what I do today. But I think there's some point in my life where I say, actually, my contribution probably is not about leading a company. It might be more about being on an advisory board, maybe being a director. I have a real passion around helping people fulfill their leadership potential. So maybe that I move into the world of coaching and mentoring, perhaps. But it's a little bit like being a rugby player. Right now, I'm really enjoying playing the game.
Yeah.
At some point in time, I might move into administration or coaching of the game. But right now, I enjoy playing the game, so that's the foreseeable future.
What's going to be your prerequisites for coaching someone?
I think there had to be a sort of personal rapport there.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to really coach people in a meaningful way if you don't like one another.
That's
sort of
very
fundamentally,
true,
you've got to enjoy being with one another.
Yeah.
And if the person's really up for something big, I think there are other ways that they could be helped to develop themselves. Read this, go on training courses, etc.
For sure.
But I think if you really want to enter into the intimacy of a coaching relationship, you really want to be after something big.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain amount of disclosure required and opening up of yourself to get the best out of a coaching relationship.
Well.
And if you're not up for something big, it's almost like, is it worth it?
Yeah, so you're saying the individual has to have a hunger to do something meaningful with their life.
Yeah, well, it sort of sounds like it's this big, massive thing. I mean, they want to make a difference with themselves.
Yeah.
And whether that's change the meaning of their life or not will be determined. But I think they've really got to have a desire to make a difference for themselves.
Awesome.
Because coaching can be, I've been coached over the years. Again, like a sporting coach, they come along and you might be hugely successful as a football player.
Yeah.
But the coach still comes along and says, look, you need to do this better. That's not quite good enough.
Yeah.
So I think the more successful you become, the harder it is actually to be coached, unless you have that orientation around your willingness to open yourself up so someone can make a difference with you.
Stay humble.
Yeah, it's part of it, I guess. But equally, just realise that none of us are finished products. And there's always an opportunity for development.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, thank you for actually doing this interview with us.
You're welcome.
I know it's a Tuesday morning and you're a busy man, so just Failbetter says thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for the opportunity.